It's very easy to break into the tech industry. And whoever wants to break into the tech industry, I would strongly, strongly encourage them to get certification. And once you get in the tech industry, it is constantly evolving and changing. You have to be a lifetime learner and you have to continue to seek out other certifications to keep your skills fresh. But to break into the industry, I would definitely urge young ladies and young men as well to just go after different certifications.
What a better way to start season 6 of the See Like Different podcast and be a part of the communication. There's conversations all over social media about everyone doing the Great Resignation, everyone kind of taking that leap of faith and doing what it is they want to do, or everyone really loving working from home and wanting to find remote jobs in the tech industry. I decided to talk to family. And I thought, what not a better person to do that than my own big sister, who's literally been in the tech industry since 1999. So today on the See Life Different podcast, we have my big sister, Rasheda. She is a certified project manager and a certified Scrum Master in the cybersecurity industry. She graduated from FAMU, Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, a HBCU or historically Black college and university with a bachelor's in science with a focus in public relations. So when she graduated, she realized that there's actually a need for the tech industry. And so she loved being able to utilize her public relations skills in the tech industry. So even though she's a lifetime learner, when she's not always on a computer, she's always loves to travel. Even though she's been remotely working since 2005, she loves being with people. She's a people person and she has the most highly skilled interior decorating skills that I've ever seen, like ever. So we're going to talk about how she got into the tech industry and tips for you. If you are listening to this or watching this and you want to get into the tech industry and there's just so much conversation, so many different directions on which direction you should go, this conversation just may inspire you. Hi, Rasheda.
Hey, sis, thank you for that introduction. I didn't know you admired my interior decorating skills, so I
Look,
learned
I
something new.
do. Look, I've been a nomad all my life, so what do I know about that? So whenever I visit your house, I'm like, oh, this is fascinating.
That is too funny. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Mhm,
Your story is interesting, but it's also just like any other Black woman in tech. You
mhm,
go to school with one degree, and it was
mhm.
great, but then you get into the job market, and then it's like right now this isn't exactly the industry for me. So how did you really make that switch from journalism to then tech?
I think it was just all kind of, by happenstance that I made that switch. So when I first graduated from college, I graduated December of 98, and I did an internship right out of college at a PR firm. I just found that it really wasn't for me. And then the money also in public relations, it wasn't that much back then. I had student loans I needed to pay, and the earning potential really wasn't that great. The earning potential could be good in journalism and public relations, but a lot of times it's for a select few. So that was another thing I had to consider. Once my internship finished, I needed money. I needed to pay my car notes. So I started working for a temp service and I got on with Sprint, telephone company or cell phone company. Back then they did landlines as well. But I got on with Sprint through the temp service. And then eventually I went permanent. And I just really liked it. It was like my first real job in corporate America. I was learning so much. It was all new to me. And I really didn't know then where it would take me. I really didn't understand at that time that it was kind of going to be the springboard for getting other opportunities in the technology sector. I worked at Sprint for about 99 for about 3 years. And then I went to Bell South. Most of my career in technology has been in telecommunications, which was a great training ground because telecommunications, the type of telecom that I did, it was kind of complex. I think that it was a good springboard into other technology opportunities, because I think other potential employers felt, well, if she can learn this aspect of telecom, then, she can learn our area of technology as well. So it was, I didn't realize it was going to be a transferable skill set at the time. I was at Bell South for 3 years. Then I went to a small company called Universal Solutions, and I was laid off from there after a year because they were acquired. So then I went back to Sprint for like 10 years. And then I got my PMP certification, which really, really helped to kind of catapult me into.
Wait, for those who are completely new to that industry, PMP stands for what?
Project Management Professional Certification. So it's a very in-demand certification for project managers, not just in the tech industry, but in any industry. So it's a highly sought after skill out there in the market, and it's a very difficult certification. It's like taking a college course almost. So I got my certification in December of 2015, and then I did a voluntary separation package from Sprint in February of 2016. And that's when I started. And then I was out there looking. I had my certification, so that really helped. And I got an opportunity to interview with Dell, or SecureWorks, which is owned by Dell. And that was my entry into cybersecurity, right? So that was when did I start working there? June of 2016. So I worked there for about 5 years. I was able to learn a lot about cybersecurity. And now I'm at my current company, Proficio, which is also a cybersecurity managed service provider company. And that really opened up a whole new world for me, because cybersecurity is definitely like the hot industry right now in IT. So anybody that is looking to go into IT or into technology, I strongly, strongly encourage them to consider cybersecurity.
When did you make that, and then what was that like turning point from
Hmm.
telecommunication, communication, cell phones
Hmm.
to the cybersecurity? And kind of what was that light bulb moment for you?
It was a little difficult at first because I knew nothing about cybersecurity. So it was difficult. And when I was out there applying after I took the voluntary separation package from Sprint, I wasn't necessarily just looking in the cybersecurity industry. That's just where I landed. I applied for positions in the financial technology industry, and a few other areas of IT. And I was able to get the opportunity, in cybersecurity, which I'm really glad I did. So yeah, that's just the opportunity that I landed, so I just kind of stumbled into cybersecurity. But now that I'm in cybersecurity, that's really where I want to stay, for the rest of my career. Hopefully I can retire in the next 10 years. I really do want to stay in cybersecurity because it's a growing industry and it's a lot of job security as well.
Yeah, so that's important too, of just knowing that you can still do your job search in the tech industry. Like you started in telecommunications, you can go to cybersecurity, you can maintain staying in the project management, you can be like me and do the marketing side of tech. How can people really kind of really decide
Hmm.
when they get into the tech industry
Hmm.
which direction they should really go? Because there's multiple directions to really go,
It
right?
is. That's a really good question. I would definitely encourage people to do their research. Everything starts, I guess, with a Google search. I would encourage people to look at the outlook, like the job outlook for the particular area of IT that they're interested in. Look at the salary ranges, because obviously money is important. I would encourage them to look at any certifications that they could obtain. for the particular area they're interested in. That's another thing about technology. You don't have to have a college degree to go into technology and make like a six-figure salary. You can just get high demand certifications, and that exponentially increases your value, your market value. I would, just encourage people to do their research and look at the types of certifications that are required, salary ranges, things of that nature.
Okay, perfect. And so speaking of certification, you did also get the Scrum Master certification around 2015. So talk more about that.
Actually, I just recently got my Scrum certification. That was last year, 2021. So, certification. So, in project management, you have two major methodologies. You have the waterfall methodology of project management, and then you have the agile methodology of project management, right? So, waterfall is a methodology whereas you plan everything like upfront. You plan as much as you can before the project starts. But in IT, that is not always realistic, especially like with software development projects. So you have to kind of, with the agile method, you kind of plan out the project in phases or increments. So that's the idea behind the Scrum methodology. So my certification, my PMP certification was more so geared toward the waterfall methodology. And so I wanted to learn more about the agile methodology. And that's why I pursued the Scrum certification. So Scrum certification is not nearly as intense as PMP certification. I basically just got that certification. I did a weekend class, Saturday, Sunday, and then we took the test like that Sunday afternoon after we finished the class. So it's, as far as certifications and project management, Scrum is definitely low hanging fruit. That's an easy certification that you can pick up. And it will definitely kind of amp up your resume. But again, it's just kind of centered around the agile methodology, and it was really developed for software development projects. So that's kind of what the focus of Scrum is.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying that, especially for those who were like, what does all of this mean?
Yeah.
Which one of the job was your actual first remote job? Because you've been doing it since around 2005, right? Working
Actually,
remotely?
probably before then. So my first remote job was actually my first tour at Sprint. So I worked at Sprint when I first graduated from college. So that was what, 99 to 2002. And so I actually started working remote at Sprint probably around 2001. So that was my first opportunity to work remotely. And then when I went to Bell South, I was in the office. And then after Bell South, I went to another company where I was working remotely. And then when I went back to Sprint, I worked remote, probably maybe 3 days a week. So I've worked remotely most of my career.
So how did you get into that? Because at least now
Mhm.
there's the option, like pretty much most jobs, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
Everything is remotely. But back then you had to weigh some kind of options, right? So
Mhm.
how did that really work? Did you have to put it on your resume that was your preference when they bring it up
Mhm.
in meetings? How did that work back then?
That's another good thing about tech, Zakira, is tech is on the cutting edge a lot of times of doing newer, more innovative things. So a lot of times in the tech industry, they'll take the plunge first before other industries as far as trying out new things like working remote. I didn't put it on my resume necessarily. I wasn't necessarily pursuing jobs back then that were just remote. It just so happened that it ended up being remote. So I wasn't necessarily pursuing that. Now I am though, because I'm so used to it at this point. But back then it wasn't something that I necessarily put on my resume or that I was pursuing.
Got it. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Could you have me thinking
Mhm.
like when I really first actually started really diving into marketing, like that's it. Like most
Mhm.
of the things, those of the projects were online. It was Facebook, it was Instagram, it
Right.
was MySpace at that time. So
Yeah,
everything is from the computer anyway. So where
exactly.
do I really work? Doesn't really matter. Nobody really asked me that.
Right.
As long as I get the work done.
I've never had to meet face to face with my customers. I mean, now one of my big clients, when I was at Bell South, we did travel to Nashville because that's where the client was headquartered. But I've never had to really be face to face with any of my clients. Working, it was just a natural fit to work remotely.
Yeah, I love that. Now, speaking of face to face versus non face to face,
Mhm,
so now that like I'm learning more about you on this call, and it's amazing, right?
mhm,
So, with your public relations
mhm,
like focus,
mhm.
and how do you really kind of balance that? Because now that I remember that you used to hold book clubs and you were the one who really spearheaded our first couple of family reunions,
Mhm,
right? So you
mhm,
use your event planning and public relations skills. So
mhm,
how do you really, when you're not working, like how do you
mhm,
really choose what you do in your spare time for versus I want to interact with people versus I don't want to interact with people?
And are you asking me like what kind of hobbies do I have in my spare time, or how do
Yes.
I balance not being able to interact with people face to face in my job?
Yeah, both questions. So, what do you do in your spare time, and how do you choose which spare time activities
Mhm.
are like just simply Netflix and chill?
Yeah, I love to chill, definitely, especially on the weekends. I love to decompress. But, as far as hobbies, I definitely, like you mentioned before, I love interior design. So a lot of times, like on the weekends, I'm like looking through magazines, trying to get ideas, for things I can do in my home. I'm a part of a podcast every week, and that's something that has kind of taken off, and I've become more involved in. But there's a podcast that I do every week, about the Atlanta child murders, and bringing justice to the family. So that's something that I like to do in my spare time as well. I'm able to choose. Like, I'm pretty much an introvert and an empath, so I do love people, and I love to socialize as well, but kind of on my terms. Like, after a while, I get a little overstimulated if I'm around too many people, and I have to kind of be by myself a little. But I definitely love being around people, but I don't have to be around a lot of people all the time, because I'm kind of an empath. It can be, overstimulation for me, and it can be exhausting sometimes.
I'm glad you mentioned about being an empath because that's what we both are. And
Hmm.
so even for us, that's been our quality time. That's mainly what we do. We
Hmm.
would eat, we go to the movies,
Hmm.
and that's about it. We're
Hmm.
one of the few people that can enjoy just being in each other's space quietly.
Right,
Most people feel like you have
right,
to have a conversation. So yeah,
exactly.
perfect. Now I think one thing that I feel like we completely overlook,
Hmm.
especially you reminded me once you mentioned the Atlanta crime, is that you are one of the rare birds of Atlanta native, born and raised, with the exception of going to FAMU, Florida for FAMU, right?
Right, that's correct. I've been here all my life.
Yeah. So I think people would be like, I hear her accent. Where's she from? So now you have your answer.
Yep, I'm a Georgia peach through and through.
Good. Now, where do you want to travel to? I love to end the podcast with this fun question of where do you want to travel to when this is all over with? But I think most pandemics we know that they take a couple of years to fully end. But where do you want to travel to next?
Domestically, I want to go to Denver. I've always wanted to travel to Denver, but internationally, like, my absolute goal is to go to Egypt. I would love to see the pyramids before I leave this earth. So that's like definitely on my bucket list. I would love to go to Spain. I would love to go to Madrid. I like cruising. I like cruises. I love going to the Caribbean islands. That's something I've done before, obviously, but yeah, definitely Egypt, Spain. I would like to go to Denver. I've been to New York, but I was really young when I went. My mom's ex-husband was from New York, so I barely remember it. So I want to get back to New York as well eventually. But yeah, traveling is in my blood. I've been traveling since I was probably 5 or 6 weeks old. My first trip was to Ohio to visit our grandmother. So yeah, my mom worked for the airline. So as a kid, I definitely did quite a bit of traveling.
Yeah, and then our dad is a military veteran, so
Mhm.
that's definitely why it's in our blood. Like he travels so much that he just kind of stayed with us, and
Mhm.
and good thing for that,
Right.
because I realize now so many kids just stay in Georgia, stay in Florida, stay
Mhm.
wherever they are, and the
Mhm.
first experience of travel isn't until college.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. It's a lot of people that have never even been on an airplane probably until
Yeah,
they're
or
adults.
cruise.
Yeah, until they're adults. Yep.
Now, speaking of, when did you first start cruising? And correct me if I'm wrong,
Mhm.
but is it a family member that really introduced you to like just cruising on a regular?
Oh, definitely Uncle Eric. You already know the answer to that because I just talked to him the other day and he has like 5 cruises lined up for this year. But my first cruise was when I worked for Bell South. I won Pinnacle Club, and that's where it's like an all expense company paid trip. And that was my very first cruise. That was in 2005, and I took my mom, and I think I've been hooked ever since.
For me, my first actual, you've actually beat me in the cruise category, because
Mhm,
my first actual cruise
mhm.
wasn't until I was overseas. It was London, crossing that water over to France.
Oh,
Sorry, the
okay.
UK
Uh-huh.
or England, crossing over to France, and that was it. They call it a ferry,
Oh,
British
okay.
time, call it ferry,
Uh-huh.
but it was an overnight cruise, and it had everything that a cruise would have,
Oh,
and that was
wow.
it.
I
It was
didn't know
lovely.
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I bet that was a
yeah.
fun experience.
It was,
Yeah.
it was, and we were all kids. We're
Mhm,
teenagers at that time. We were doing it with the
mhm,
not the study abroad, the global ambassador trip that I did, and
mhm.
so we were all kids, just finally having a break from just trying to be, diplomatic Americans. But yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, cruising is a lot of fun, and it's an economical way to travel too.
I love that. All right, now the
Mhm,
second question that I love to
mhm,
wrap up podcast conversations with
mhm.
is, what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh my God. That's a great question. Was that in the questions you sent to me?
Yeah, you may have missed it.
I know, maybe I missed it. I think I want my legacy to be that number one, I treated people well. That's first and foremost, that I was kind to people, that I tried to help in any way that I can. Gosh, I don't know. You like caught me off guard with this one, Zakira. And I guess I want my legacy to be that I was able to conquer knowledge of self. You know what I'm saying? To know who I am, why I'm here, and where I'm going. So this is what life is all about. It's all about that search for knowledge of self. And you're never going to know everything, obviously, before you leave this earth. But I probably didn't articulate that very well, but yeah, that's what I would want to be remembered for.
Makes perfect sense to me.
Okay.
Perfect. All right. Now, where can listeners
Mhm.
and viewers see more of your interior decorating skills and connect with you on LinkedIn?
You want to post my LinkedIn um link in here? Can you post it in here? I'm definitely on LinkedIn under Rasheda Mayner. And can you post like the link to my page here?
Yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
will do what I will do is in the show notes, I'll
Hmm.
post a link to your LinkedIn.
Hmm.
And then yeah, I'll post a link to your LinkedIn. And then how can, if anyone wants to really like learn from you, I don't know, maybe one on one
Hmm.
about breaking into the tech industry, how can they contact you that way?
They can email me RZMAYNER, so RZ Maynor at yahoo.com.
So I'll be sure to put your email and your LinkedIn in the show notes.
Okay.
And if no one else got anything else from the conversation, what is one thing you want the ladies who want to break into the tech industry to remember?
So it's very easy to break into the tech industry. And whoever wants to break into the tech industry, I would strongly, strongly encourage them to get certifications. And once you get in the tech industry, it is constantly evolving and changing. You have to be a lifetime learner, and you have to continue to seek out other certifications to keep your skills fresh. But to break into the industry, I would definitely urge young ladies and young men as well to just go after different certifications and research the type of certifications that are in demand for the particular sector of IT they want to go into.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Miss OG in Women in Tech. Thank you for the conversation.
You're welcome, sis. I enjoyed this.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and download so you don't miss the next episode. If you want to learn more, you can visit ZakiraNayar.com. That's ZAAKIRAHNAYYAR.com.